I was right. I was freaking right, okay? So I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. If this is your first video on the channel, I'm sorry. I'm just going to be excited for a bit. Bear with me here. But I was right. Like 4 weeks ago, in a week in review video where I'm talking about news and updates and all that, I was like, oh, CMON's next Kickstarter and blah 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 blah. And on camera, mid-talking, I figured out that it was Marvel Zombicide. Mid-camera. I'm going to include, either I'll put it at the end of this video, a little cut, paste segment, whatever it is, or I'll just include a link below to that video. But mid-video, I figured out what was going on, and I was like, no way. And then I proceeded to forget about it because, of course, I was probably wrong, but I was right, okay? Okay, so let's take a step back. For those of you who have no idea what's going on, which is probably most of you. Well, actually, it's probably not true. Probably about half of you. Either way, CMON, a company that I tend to be a big fan of, a cool mini or not. We'll talk about this more throughout the video, different things, all that. But they are basically having Marvel Zombicide announced. There's mixed reactions on it too. I'll get to that. My reaction is not mixed. I am prepared to be very let down. Do not get me wrong. But my excitement is absolutely present, and we'll get into that. So let's take a step through this window or whatnot. But basically, CMON makes Zombicide. They've made Zombicide for a very long time. It's I would argue it's the game that made them famous, popular, all that stuff. Or popular is a relative term. Popular with a whole lot of people, and love to be hated by a segment of population as well. And then they started doing Marvel stuff with Spin Master recently. And Marvel Zombicide is now a thing coming to your table. I don't know much more about it. Not yet. I know. Give me a second. I don't know much about it, but I do know that Marvel Zombicide is now going to be a thing. I love the Marvel IP. So sue me. I do. I'm sorry for those who are burnt out by it. This is a $400 plus all-in that you can skip and save money on. For me, I love the Marvel IP. I love what it brings to the table. And I'm not done with it yet. I mean, I have, 3 Marvel games in my collection? I know people are burnt out, but if I have Marvel United, Marvel Champions. I feel like I'm missing one. Do I have anything else? Do I have any other Marvel games? Fine, I have Marvel United, Marvel Champions, and now Marvel Zombicide. That is, I have far more boring Euros. I'd rather take a Marvel IP over a boring Euro, but I'm covering my points out of order because I'm just excited. I like Zombicide. Again, cover my points out of order. By the way, side point, if you haven't already, go ahead, check on Crackle's channel, go ahead, check out the video of us figuring it out. For context, we have no idea. When we're doing that filming, we have no idea what's coming. Jesse and Shira know there's a big box. That's what they know, but they don't know what's in it. We haven't opened it, we haven't done anything. Every reaction you're seeing on that video is genuine. We're figuring it out as we go through it. You actually have the upside of having had 3 days to figure out the Silver Surfer and Galactus and go through it, whatnot. I did not have 3 days. I had 2 minutes to figure it out. But I had already called Marvel Zombicide. And also, make sure, and I'll throw a link to this down below, make sure to check out Tom's boring unboxing over on the Dice Tower. His reaction and complete lack of hype is priceless. Because you see, I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm not going to try to hide it. I am prepared to be let down, but I am also ridiculously excited. I'm going to spend more money than I should on this giant next box of plastic, and I'm going to explain why too. I'm going to go through this video. This video is going to be a bit of a chain of covering the Marvel IP, covering all the Zombicides, why I'm prepared to be let down, and why I'm still excited. I'm going to go through all of that. This is not me spending 6 minutes just stuttering over how excited I am. I mean, it is. It's also that. But yeah, check out Tom's boring unboxing video. He's literally just going through a whole bunch of regular unboxings like he does for everything else, and he just opens up this little thing. He's like, oh, Silver Surfer or whatever, I guess another miniature. His complete intentional lack of excitement for the sake of not being excited is amazing to watch. I love it. I love it. It's just, you have opposite ends of the spectrum. But let's go ahead. And let's start with the fact, speaking of opposite ends of the spectrum, let's talk about the fact that opinions on this are mixed, which is typical of CMON. They for some reason, I shouldn't say for some reason, I know some of the reasons, but for a variety of reasons, some of which I think make sense, and some of which are just the nature of the beast, CMON is the company that people love to hate. People find these larger companies that they love to hate. And I've talked about this about Awakened Realms too, by the way. Awakened Realms, which used to be the small, scrappy startup that everyone loved, as they've gotten larger and larger, people are like, oh, Awakened Realms, and they're blah, blah, blah. People like to hate on successful companies, successful entities. You'll find this in anything, by the way, in content creation too. The amount of people who like to punch down on, or punch up, I guess, punch up on the dice tower, or shut up and sit down, or Walmart. Outside of the board game space, you pick Walmart. We have any number of gigantic companies doing things, but Walmart's the one that gets the hate. People like to find the people who've made it the most in an area, and then hate on that person, entity, company, whatever you want to call it. And in the case of CMON, again, I think there are some legitimate reasons. I think there are some legitimate concerns, but at the same time, the amount of hate they get for their issues, and I'm not trying to paint a target on anyone's back, so I'm not going to give comparisons right now, but the amount of companies I can think of that are not small, board game companies that are not small, that have far worse customer service than CMON, that have much worse delays, that have more Kickstarters in the pipeline, that have more concerns about whether they will or won't fulfill, and their communication is garbage. I think CMON, especially in recent years, CMON has really stepped up their post-Kickstarter communication. They've always been active on the Kickstarters, but they weren't the best after, and they've gotten better and better. I'm not saying the customer service is amazing. The customer service still has issues. Different things still have issues. I can be sympathetic to that while also being sympathetic to the customers who are... I can be sympathetic to both sides of the equation. But yeah, I understand why people would hate CMON. They just choose to hate CMON at a much larger scale than other companies do. And to be very clear, I think most people are excited about this. If you take a look at the general news and announcements, it's like this much hype and then this much like complete buzzkill. Like, oh, I hate CMON. Oh, another $400 all-in. A bunch of, oh, tell me. Oh, what's CMON's next Kickstarter? Oh, it's a bunch of overpriced plastic with no game behind it. No, their games are fantastic. Go jump in the lake. They may not be for you, and that's okay. But you don't need to yuck on someone else's yum. You don't need to hate on what someone else enjoys. CMON makes a lot of games. And they have a passionate following for a reason. And let's say that all their games are complete and utter garbage and people just keep backing them for the plastic. People are coming back. The CMON has a huge amount of repeat followers. People are excited by the next CMON Kickstarter. Whether it's for you or not, whether it's because you genuinely think they're garbage, whether it's because you don't like the price tag, whatever the reason is, you don't need to hate on something that someone else enjoys. It's not for you, congratulations, move on and see something else. The amount of energy people spend hating CMON is fascinating. And then not just CMON, we have people who are sick of the Marvel IP. Oh, slapping more Marvel on a box, I'm done, I'm tired, I'm over it. Okay, congratulations, many of us aren't. And going back to my point, I have 3 Marvel games in my collection. I have Marvel United, Marvel Champions, and now I'm going to have Marvel Zombicide. I really don't think I have anything else Marvel. I don't even know if I have anything else superhero. I've gotten rid of Senseless Multiverse a long time ago. I have Freedom 5 coming. Yeah, the idea that marveled out or superheroed out is bizarre considering the amount of boring old white men that I have on the front of my Euros and whatnot. I have so many boxes. I have Hansa Teutonica, I have Concordia, I have Troyes. I have so many games full of just boring Euro dynamics. People are like, oh no, superheroes and their, powers. That is so last year. And if you're saying that you're marveled out in the general ecosystem, I hear you, but board games are far from marveled out yet. The general ecosystem, sure. The amount of Marvel movies that come out, the amount of Marvel hype that comes out, the amount of Marvel TV shows that come out. Still a tiny fragment in the general amount of things that are being put out, but if you want to be exhausted and sick of it, by all means, you do you. I, for one, will never be bored of Tom Hiddleston, and when I saw a video that he did a while ago saying that he will never stop playing Loki as long as they keep asking him, I was like, yes, because I will never be bored of Loki. Loki's fantastic. By the way, Loki broke recently. This stuff over here, Gorilla Glue, Super Glue, Brush Nozzle, fantastic stuff for reapplying his broken legs. Turns out my 5-year-old is more effective than Hulk with his little Hulk smash. Actually, not my 5-year-old, to be fair, my 5-year-old's friend. That's the last time I let my kids' friends play with my miniatures. My kids, yes, I let my kids play with my miniatures all the time because it brings them joy, and I'm not going to be that dad who's like, my games and toys are not for me. I watched the Lego movie, I know the moral of the story, but my son's friends, on the other hand, I no longer trust them to treat them carefully. Side points. So, we talked about the fact people are sick of CMON, people are sick of Marvel, but a lot more people are excited. A lot more people are going with the whole take my money meme. If it's Marvel Zombicide, I won't be able to stop myself. And by the way, I've seen all the comments saying, Galactus, death may die. That would have been amazing too. And it might be. I'll say, you see, I don't know what's going on, but here's what I do know. You want some information? Because CMON's 50th Kickstarter could be, and I don't know this, by the way, I genuinely don't know this. What I'm saying now is complete hypotheticals. Here's what I do know. I know that Marvel Zombicide is a thing. I know that Galactus is going to be in Marvel Zombicide. I know that Galactus can be a zombie, so I know that much right now. I know that Spin Master's involved. I know that Guillotine Games is involved. You want the stuff I don't know, but we can theorize about? People wanted a giant boss for Marvel United. Why in the world? Why? Tell me one good reason why Marvel shouldn't, why CMON shouldn't be having Galactus Death May Die as being an add-on for Marvel United as well. Hey, by the way, for $10 you can get that Marvel United little pack that tells you how to incorporate Galactus Death May Die into your Marvel United system. Maybe this Galactus is genuinely a bridge between worlds. We've been talking about the multiverse. Maybe the multiverse is coming to CMON. Maybe the idea, and again, all this is theory. All this is complete theory. I have no idea. In fact, one thing I meant to do before doing this video, but I forgot to, is if you've seen the Galactus Mini, it has a big round base. I wanted to measure that base and see just how well it fits into the center of the Marvel United playmat. I'll get to it eventually. Maybe I'll update or something like that at the comment. I'm curious. I'll get that information. Maybe I'll put it in a pinned comment. But I'm curious whether that base is intentionally a giant circle to fit into the middle of your Marvel United sphere, because you throw some rules around that and you throw your little card line of Marvel United going around. It could be both. It doesn't just have to be a zombie for Marvel Zombicide. It can also be a miniature for Marvel United. Both things can be true. And then while we're on the subject, why in the world shouldn't we have Marvel Death May Die? Galactus Death May Die. We can have all three. Some of my favorite Marvel games, some of my favorite CMON games, sorry. We should, and no reason why I can't, that would be, the all-in pledge is going to get more and more expensive. But the idea of having, Marvel Zombicide, Marvel United Galactus as some sort of boss, scenario, whatever you want to call it, and then also having Galactus Death May Die. I don't see a reason why not, because we have that overlap between them. The only time CMON has done a giant miniature in the past was Cthulhu Death May Die. Why don't we have Galactus Death May Die? An entire line of the Death May Die system, but with Marvel instead. The all-in of this hypothetical Kickstarter that I'm imagining is getting more and more expensive by the minute, but I'm okay with that. Speaking for myself, and I understand not everyone will. Some of the reason people get frustrated about these things is because they're expensive. And sometimes it's just genuinely just a lack of interest. Other times it can be frustrating to see a price tag on something that's out of your reach, and then you can't get it, and so there's a few options. You can be frustrated that you can't get it, you can move on quietly, or you can expand your frustration to others. How dare they do X, Y, and Z? And I get it. It's no different than me saying, who needs a $100,000 car? What a waste of money. Because I don't care about cars. I care about board games. So there's different things, but again, there's no reason to yuck on others' yum. Can't say that phrase out loud without sounding silly, but the concept is there. But that's some of the excitement stuff. Let's talk about Zombicide. Because Zombicide Through the Ages, let's call it. I'm not going to call this video that. I'm going to call this video something else. I have no idea. We'll figure it out. Zombicide Through the Ages. Let's talk about my personal history and experience with Zombicide, and why I am both incredibly excited for everything happening right now, also incredibly prepared to be let down. Both those things are true. By the way, I also have all the Zombicide Invader stuff. Currently, it's over at Jesse and Shira's house, at Cracklow's house, because we're in the middle of going through some Zombicide Invader, because we're all excited about Zombicide, so we're doing some stuff with it. We're doing more gameplays, more talking, more things, this entire video, all those things. I know Tom's like, oh, another miniature, whatever, and it's hilarious, I get it. I'm excited, so sue me. But, and I'm allowed to be a fanboy, okay? I always have been. From day one, I've been a fanboy of CMON. My first popular video on this channel was Marvel United and why I'm backing it. And that was me defending CMON and saying, I know the game is a complete disappointment to what I thought it would be, but here's why I'm still excited, and it's right. It proved me right. I love this game, I enjoy this game. I just played Marvel United with my 5-year-old this past week. It's so much fun. Is it light? Yes. Is it stupid? Yes. Is it fun and ridiculously entertaining, and does he want to dive back in again? Yes. So I'm okay with being a fanboy. There's only a few companies I'm a fanboy of. There's Awakened Realms, there's CMON, there's Monolith. Mythic has had a spotty track record. I love Mythic as a company. From day one, I've loved Mythic as a company, but their games have been 50-50 for me. Some have been great, some have been medium, some have been okay, some have been not good, but actually, I don't think any have not been good. I think it's been medium to great. Either way, I'm getting distracted. Zombicide Through the Ages. Let's go back to that. I told you, this is going to include 6 minutes of me just being excited. So, Zombicide Through the Ages, we had Seasons 1, 2, and 3. The Zombicide that made CMON popular. And by the way, back then, I was one of those people who had no interest, thought this was just a bunch of overpriced plastic, thought it was uninteresting, uninspired. Congratulations, you just want a horde full of plastic on your table. I had no interest in this genre of games back then. And in fact, it was Blood Rage that turned me on to CMON. Blood Rage was the game that turned me on to CMON as a company, and from there I just started diving in heavily and finding out that apparently I was one of those people who liked having hordes of plastic on my table. But I didn't get 1, 2, and 3. Because if you know the timeline, by the time Blood Rage was out, Black Plague was next or before or somewhere around there. And so Black Plague was my first Zombicide. Black Plague was the Zombicide that I dived in on. I watched videos from Dice Tower, Z Garcia, Sam Healy, Sam going over Black Plague, talking about it, and I was like, boom, I am in on Black Plague. I'm getting my hands on a copy. I got my hands on a copy, proceeded to play it, and proceeded to fall in love. Eventually, well, let's talk timeline. Then I got Green Horde. I got my hands on Green Horde. Didn't play Green Horde for quite some time, but I got my hands on it. And then from there, because Green Horde hadn't delivered yet, I enjoyed Black Plague, I wanted Green Horde, maybe it had just delivered, I don't remember the exact timeline, but it had come out recently or soon or something, either way. And then from there, or was Green Horde with Black Plague? No, they were separate, right? I'm losing track of the timeline here, the multiverse and the timeline and all that stuff. But then eventually I got my hands on Seasons 1, 2, and 3. I wanted to try them out, I wanted to see if they were for me. I didn't keep them at all. I barely dove into them at all. Seasons 1, 2, and 3 of Zombicide were games that had older rule sets, a theme that I was significantly less interested in. My least favorite Zombicide theme to date, which they've done twice now, or I guess they've done it 4 times now if you count 1, 2, and 3 as 3, but is basically modern. Modern Zombicide has always been my least interesting theme. That's beside for the fact that they call things like pimp mobiles, which I can't get over, the pimp weapons, pimp mobiles. I throw up a bit in my mouth. You think yucking and yumming. I just don't find that endearing or remotely entertaining. I don't know why that needs to be in the game. But anyways, modern Zombicide, past that, I just don't care as much about the general theme. The car aspect is cool. Running over zombies with your car, that I'll give you. The rest of it, everything else about every other Zombicide system has worked better for me. And so I didn't keep 1, 2, and 3 because it was a theme I didn't like and it was an outdated rule set. I liked Zombicide enough that I tried to try it and see if it was for me, but it didn't. It had no real interest and I didn't dive fully into it. I just had a game and moved on. Back to Black Plague and Green Horde, which have consistently delivered for me and to date are my favorite Zombicides. Then I got my hands on Invader. Because of course I did. Because it's space freaking Zombicide and I'm excited. And Invader, while still in my collection, has not done it for me yet, and it's still heading out of my collection. Right now, while I'm actively in the middle of going through plays of Invader with Jesse and Shira and trying to see if it's for me, simultaneously what's currently happening is my enjoyment of it is rising, but it's still not where it needs to be to actually keep it. We're going to keep playing a bit more of it, and either my enjoyment rises to the point where I keep it, or it goes away, and I'm okay with that. I'm even more okay with that because I also have Wild West Undead or Alive on its way, and apparently I will have Marvel Zombicide on its way too. So yeah, I'm okay with Invader. I like Invader. My big problem with it is, thematically, I like it. The art I don't like as much as the other Zombicides. I can't remember the artist names. I don't know that they are, but I know that Invader is Adrian Smith. Invader is the art of Adrian Smith, whose art is fantastic. But for me, it doesn't fit as well in the Zombicide world. So I find the art of Invader to be my least favorite art from the newer Zombicides, all that. I guess not including Night of the Living Dead. I didn't like that at all. True to the movie, just doesn't do it for me. But, so art-wise, Invader doesn't work for me. Miniature-wise, it's great. Gameplay, theme, all things great there, except for one small aspect, which is in Invader, specifically because of the concentrated fire rule and the way the game is built around that instead of the other ways, which is basically the idea being that you can take out abominations significantly easier than you have in the past. I have never felt the threat of death in Invader. I have won every single game of Invader I've played, and I've won them handily. It has never been an actual threat in any way, shape, or form that I will possibly die. It's just been too easy. And I keep trying to ramp up the difficulty, and I will continue to be ramping up the difficulty as Jesse, Shira, and I play through it. But for right now, it's still a game that I have yet to feel the threat of death, and that means that I just don't care enough about it. I like feeling like we might die. I like running from zombies. I like running from abominations because we can't take them out. I like that in the game. I want to feel the fear. One of my favorite things about Resident Evil recently, that I recently discovered from Steam Forge Games, is that every single zombie is a threat, and I like that. Don't get me wrong, I like the slaughtering of zombies you have in the Zombicide system, but I wanted the abominations to at least feel like a threat, and in Invader, they just don't. And so Invader for right now is still on its way out. And maybe I'll enjoy it enough to keep it, but if I do, that'll be a problem, because I can't keep all this Zombicide. And from there we have Night of the Living Dead, a Zombicide game that I skipped on. I had no interest in it. Eventually I picked it up in trade, but even then I never bothered playing it because it's Night of the Living Dead. I've heard from other people who played it that it was ridiculously easy. So now we're in the same problem. It's modernish Zombicide. It's ridiculously easy, which I don't like, and it's a theme that I have no interest in. Tribute to the movie. Congratulations, that's awesome. And I know we have another tribute to movie coming out. We have Zombicide Army of the Dead coming out at some point, in some way, based on the Netflix series. I'm sure I'll take a look at it. I don't know if I'll buy it or back it. I'll probably wait until I hear other people's opinions, because I don't care enough to dive into another Zombicide system unless I'm really pulled in by it, otherwise known as Marvel Zombicide. I thought I'd be excited by Zombicide Pirates or Zombicide Ninjas. No, 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 no. Marvel Zombicide is the way to go. But anyways, from there we have Season 2 of Zombicide. I went ahead and backed all in on Season 2. Season 2 eventually arrived, and I dove into it. And I have very mixed opinions on Season 2. Very mixed opinions. I like some of the things it was doing. I like the night and day cycle. That was a lot of fun, and managing the sequence of events. The campaign they had a campaign system where you unlock cards. Lots of fun. Again, like Invader, they did a lot of things mechanically that I enjoyed and I was okay with. Thematically, while the art was better than Invader, at least for me, the miniatures were better than Invader, at least for me, thematically, it's modern versus space. I'll still take the space theme of Invader over the theme of modern. You had the cars racing over people, you had events in the campaign, you had night-day cycles, you had broken weapons, you had a lot of fun things mechanically in Season 2 that I think are solid. And also, I never lost a game. I never lost a game. I never came close to losing a game. I don't like Zombicide when I'm not losing. For me, the ideal win rate of Zombicide is between 30 to 50%. Anything more than that, and it stops becoming... to me, the fun of Zombicide is not rolling dice and slaughtering zombies. It's rolling dice and slaughtering zombies while trying to remain alive. And if you remove the while trying to remain alive from the system, I don't care enough about you. I think that over the years, CMON has dumbed down Zombicide a bit because of the fact to make it an entry point, to make it accessible to new people, which makes it hard for people like myself who dive into it, and I'm like, well, I know the system. I know I want to be threatened. And I'm still threatened in Black Plague. It's not that I've gotten so good that these things aren't a threat. It's that the games have gotten easier. And they all have ways to ramp up or adjust the difficulty, and I've tried with all of them. With each of them. With Zombicide 2nd Edition, with Zombicide Invader, I keep trying to ramp up the difficulty. And at a certain point, I sit there and say, okay, I can keep trying or I can move on. Once I start house ruling well past your own difficulty scaling and trying to literally just cram the deck against me, at a certain point, it becomes silly. And so that's where I left off with Zombicide 2nd Edition. It went away. I like it. It's a good game. I enjoyed my time with it. I had 12 plays or something. I had a whole bunch of plays. We went through the campaign. Went through one of the campaigns. It was a solid, enjoyable game. And one that I don't need to own anymore, and don't. I still own Invader, though. Because Invader... 2nd Edition was even easier than Invader. I mean, neither of them have I ever died, but Invader at least a little... whatever. I like them, and we'll see what happens to them. And that brings us to Undead or Alive. Undead or Alive, which I've had the pleasure of playing once. On TTS, mind you, but I've had the pleasure of playing it once. And I lost that game, which already puts it at a much better space than other games. Also, if I recall correctly, in Undead or Alive, you control 4 heroes, which is interesting because that means it's better suited as a 1-player game, a 2-player game, and a 4-player game than the other Zombicides are. I guess 2 you could argue it's fine, but it's 1, 2, and 4 would be the ideal sweet spot for a game that has 4 heroes. Versus typical Zombicide has 6 heroes, which makes it ideal as a 2 and 3-player game. As a 1-player game, you're controlling 6 heroes. That's a lot of work. 4 is easier. It's not hard, it's just a lot of stuff to keep track of. As a 2 or 3-player game, 6 heroes can be divided nicely. As a 6-player game, you're controlling 1 hero each, and any other player count, you're just have odd numbers. It doesn't really work. So regular Zombicide is the sweet spot at 2 and 3. Undead or Alive, the sweet spot would be 1, 2, and 4. So that's already interesting. And we died, which is interesting. And we were told when we started, the person running, Helena from CMON running it, said, I haven't seen anyone win yet, by the way. And I was like, yeah, your last games have been easy. I'll go into this. And we died, which I loved. Loved that. Now, thematically, Wild West, I'm fine with. I like it better than Modern, probably equivalent to Space, less than Medieval. But, again, all good things. And I like the art. The miniatures look fantastic. I'm very curious about the various things. My biggest complaint about Undead or Alive, and this is a big complaint, and the reason why I wonder if Undead or Alive stays in my collection. I backed it all in, I'll get it, I'll play it, and I'll either sell it or not. Again, these games hold their value just fine. I'm not worried about the temporary aspect of them coming through my collection and seeing if they stay or not. But Undead or Alive, my biggest concern with it, and the reason why I do not think it will stay. Right now, where I am right now, if I had to make a bet, if I had to bet with whatever one of you, whoever, I would bet that Undead or Alive does not stay. And that's because it does not have zombie variability. One of the reasons I love Black Plague and Green Horde so much, and one of the reasons it is better than any other Zombicide system I've played to date, is because of the zombie variability. Abomination variability is great. Zombie variability is better. Having your walkers, your runners, and your fatties, that's all fine. That's all great. Throwing in those dogs who have 3 activations. Throwing in the zombie archers, the undead, whatever they're called, marksman, I can't remember what they're called, but throwing in the zombie archers who shoot 3 down the hallway and will take you out in a heartbeat. Throwing in the host of rats and spirits and all these different creatures. And then the dragons. We have all these different things. Dragons technically are an abomination, but there's so much stuff in these games in terms of the variability that they give you. They have the crows. You have so much. I mean, I think you probably have something like 10 different zombie types in the game. And you can mix them in slowly as you go through it. Invader had a decent amount, but then less, and the second edition had even less. And Undead or Alive, I think they had like 1 zombie type. I can't even remember. I'd have to go look. They had people who shoot you, but even then, situationally, they do not have the variability that I want in my zombies. And CMON does not have a good track record of revisiting most of their campaigns. I do not expect to see more variability in my Undead or Alive zombies, and so despite liking Undead or Alive, despite enjoying my play, and despite it being harder, I don't know if it stays because it doesn't have the variability that these systems do. These systems I can mix up in a heartbeat by putting in new zombies. Undead or Alive, it's just going to come down to abomination variability and going through the maps. Now again, I don't know where it lies, but I think that is the biggest weak point for me. Which brings us to Marvel Zombicide. Why I'm excited, why I'm prepared to be let down, all of that. So first of all, as far as why I'm excited, for context, just to give you just context to me, in that video I did a few weeks ago where I kind of realized on camera that Marvel Zombicide might be an option, I finished that video and then I went over to my computer and I started drafting fake hero ideas for Marvel Zombicide. I got through Captain America, what his level 1 skill is, level 2, level 3. I went through his stuff and tried to figure it out. So his level 1 is like, you have a default skill, which is like block, absorb the first damage in your zone, because he's got a shield, right? Your level 2 skill for Captain America could be that, I wanted branching pathways. I wanted a new concept in the games where you have these branching pathways of how the skills interlink or interplay off one another. So his next skill could be one that, and you have the +1 action skill, fine, you can include that, but his next skill could be throwing a shield. Throw your shield, down a hallway in a straight line, shove all zombies one zone, or something. You can figure out details. Then, you could have a next tier skill, whenever you attack with your shield, deal an extra damage, and yes, this applies to your throwing your shield if you took that route, or it applies to your blocking shield if you took that route. There's different pathways I wanted for the way the skills can augment each other. And I thought it was cool, and fun, and I created Captain America. And then I hit delete on my draft because I was like, this is never going to happen. What am I wasting my time for? I have other things I can do with my time. But that's how excited I am about Marvel Zombicide. The idea of seeing that Marvel IP, Loki, in the game, either as a hero or as a zombie, I don't really care. But that excitement about the IP is absolutely present. I want to see these heroes that we've grown to know over the past 20 years. And I know the comics were before, but I read the comics, but I didn't get involved in the universe until the MCU. But I wanted to see these heroes, these characters, whether as zombies or as survivors in this game, doing what they're supposed to do. It sounds like it's so much fun. I like the Zombicide IP. I like the Marvel IP. Throwing them together is just a recipe for a lot of fun. And I am absolutely prepared to be let down. Because everything I've said right now is the good news part of it. But what if they don't have zombie types? Granted, I don't even know what zombie types look like. I don't know if we're fighting against heroes or I don't know what we're fighting against. What if there's not variability in the monsters? What if this is the easiest Zombicide to date? Because they're slapping an IP on it. A very accessible IP. And the last time CMON slapped an IP onto their games, the Marvel IP onto their games, we ended up with Marvel United, which for all that I love it, is really, really easy. Granted, I have actually lost some games of Marvel United, so at least it's harder than Zombicide Invader. But it is really easy, generally. You can modify it a bit, make it a bit harder, fine, but it's generally a really easy game. I don't care if Marvel Zombicide is easy. I don't. As long as they have a hard mode, in some way, shape, or form. And one that's actually hard, not one that's like, remove these 20 cards from the spawn deck, and then everything's going to be hard, because I've tried that twice now, and it isn't. I want Marvel Zombicide to at least have the potential to be hard. I don't care if it's a default. Figure out a way to make it accessible to new players, and to reward fans of the Zombicide system. Because if you reward fans of the Zombicide system by slapping an IP onto the game and making it ridiculously easy, that's not a reward. you know how many people own Zombicide Invader? At least on Board Game Geek, not actual ratings, but proportionate ratings. It's like 6,000 people who have a copy marked as owned. Do you know how many people own Black Plague? It's like 24,000 people. I believe Black Plague is still the dominant Zombicide game for fans of the genre. For people who are hardcore Zombicide fans, I believe it's still the best game to date. I could be wrong, but I think the numbers support it. I want Marvel Zombicide to not just be welcoming to Marvel fans, I want it to be welcoming to Zombicide fans. And welcoming to Zombicide fans means we all have to die. That's what welcoming means, at least from my biased standpoint. But that's, I mean, it has to be possible for us to die on a regular basis. And then I want cool things. I want different zombie types. I don't know what that looks like, I'll admit it. What are the zombies even in this game? Just regular humans? Because the focus should be the heroes, right? So are they zombie heroes? I don't know how it looks. But I want the variability in the experience. I want the difficulty in experience. I want all the miniatures and cool plastic, but I don't just want it to be all relegated to here's a million heroes, enjoy. There's fun. I enjoy the heroes. I like them. I like having the hero packs. But you know what I need the most? In Undead or Alive, I need zombie variability. I need threat variability. And it can't just all be abominations. Although granted, having a zombie hero or a zombie equivalent for all your various heroes is cool. But at a certain point, we need something more. As far as why I'm still excited, despite my concern that everything will be too easy, it's because when it came to Zombicide 2nd Edition, I tried house ruling it to a degree, but at a certain point I am trying to house rule a game with a theme that I like less than Black Plague and Green Horde in order to make it more palatable. And that's not a problem I need to fix. I have Black Plague and Green Horde. I don't have the incentive to fix 2nd Edition. Past basic house ruling, past basic difficulty modularity. So at a certain point I'm like, okay, great, it's good, time to move on, I still have these bad boys. With Invader it's the same problem. I like the theme more than 2nd Edition, but the art is less interesting to me. The theme is less interesting to me than these two. I like some of the things it does, but again, at a certain point, I don't need to house rule the difficulty because I don't mind letting it go. Especially now, when I have Undead or Alive coming, I have these giant boxes coming, and now I will have Marvel Zombicide coming, and it's not the last Zombicide we ever see, I guarantee you that. It might be the last one for a while. I don't know. Who knows? It's hard to beat that, like, the IP-wise. I mean, this, especially depending on what they do. Especially depending on what, well, let's get to that in a second. But Marvel Zombicide. Marvel Zombicide is one that I am willing to house rule more than the others. Because I like the theme. I am willing to put more work into making sure it is a difficult experience. I can't house rule around other zombie types. Because you could add other zombie types from other games, but unless you're willing to print cards for the spawn decks, then there's only so much you can really do. Maybe I will go that far. Maybe I'm willing to print cards for the spawn decks. I don't know. If they have a solid enough core, I like the theme enough to make this one work for me. Or to do what I can to make it work for me. And that's why I'm both excited, prepared to be let down, and still excited. And lastly, this has the potential, depending on what CMON's doing, this has the potential to be their largest Kickstarter ever. It even has the potential to be the largest board game Kickstarter ever. I say potential very, very carefully because I don't know what's coming. I would think Marvel Zombicide on its own, if I had to make a guess, I would say you're looking at 8 million. 8 million, maybe 9 million. I think there's a lot of crossover, a lot of reasons for people to dive into it. What if it is Marvel United along with Marvel Zombicide? What if it is Galactus Death May Die along with Marvel Zombicide along with whatever? I don't think it is. I think Galactus Death May Die is a stretch. I think including it in Marvel United, sure. Adding a whole new game around it. But if they do, I mean, that could well make it the largest funded Kickstarter in board game history. I know I'll be in for $1,000. It hurts to say it, but I mean, I love Death May Die, I love Zombicide, and I love Marvel United. You throw that stuff at me, I will buy it all. And that's it. That's basically this conversation. I feel like I had one more thing I want to say at the end, but I'm trying to remember what it was. Oh, yeah, just that's what it was. Small detail. In case you've watched, I should have said this at the beginning, but in case you've watched Cracklo's video and you see the November 22nd, we thought when we filmed that video that was the date of the upcoming Kickstarter. It's not, for context. I don't know what it's the date of, but it's the date of something. Maybe it's the date of CMON officially announcing their news. But, yeah, it's not the date of the next Kickstarter. I don't know when the Kickstarter is. I'm excited for it. This is not the last time you'll be hearing about it, I'm sure. I apologize in advance. There will be multiple videos about Marvel Zombicide and whatever else is coming on this channel. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. And I hope you're as excited as I am.